Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2020 Go Mode Podcast Mentor Tournament. My name is Jay Misher, and joining me today is Leori. Leori, how are you doing?
I am excellent, Jay Misher. How are you?
I am excited. So this is going to be our first restream of week one of the 6-week Swiss stage to determine the placement of our runners here. And good ones for you here today. We have WindFox470, mentored by Shireen, followed and running against Drossy, who is going to be mentored by Days Cloud.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see how our first restreamed race it goes. We had two excellent races earlier today, and I know that these guys are really excited to get running it themselves.
And we're all excited to see it. The first few weeks here of this Swiss round is going to be Ambrosia. You want to give us a little rundown very quickly of what Ambrosia is?
Yeah, absolutely. So for Ambrosia, it's going to be a standard open. So that means you're going to start in Link's house, and before Uncle leaves, he's going to give a hint as to where the boots are going to be in the world. Now, those boots may or may not be required. We don't know, but he kind of hints where they are. The other main things about this is Uncle will guarantee to give you an item as well as a sword. So your sword is assured. And in the dungeons, the bosses are guaranteed to have an item. So they won't have any small keys, big keys, maps, compasses. And we're
Really?
off.
Yeah, we are. First, just Link's house does the mushroom. It's a very fun first.
I love a good fetch quest.
You were mentioning about the boss. The thing everybody thinks about it with Ambrosia is, of course, the boots hint, which is nice. But I find the most important thing to look for is that boss item, in that it can really change how you route these dungeons. So definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
As our runners, so they simultaneously drop into Uncle and get a boomerang for their trouble.
Always nice. We could go ahead and maybe see what that stun prize is pretty early here.
Yeah, and it'll be really nice to be able to see that too, especially because our runners are going to be looking for bombs here. Kind of the main thing with standard is you want to make sure you get bombs if you can, due to the fact that the 3 items in the back of escape are locked behind it.
Absolutely.
But it looks like
Go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
I was going to say, it looks like our stun prize is a small magic refill.
That'll be nice to know, but unfortunately not bombs, and we're just going to have to see if these guards have the bombs in their prize pack. And of course, this tournament mainly for runners who are new to the scene and looking to get into racing, learn a little bit more, which is why we have them paired up with the mentors. I know Drossy is a mainstay in the community as a commentator, restreamer. So excited to see him put on his running boots and get moving. I know I've seen WindFox around as well in a few races. I think I've seen him in the Cross Keys tournament that's just started up, but it'll be fun to see these two go at it. And I think we're going to have a nice, close, fun race.
I definitely agree. And I think it's very, very cool to see people who you may know from other situations within the rando community, like you mentioned with Drossy, with calming, like you said, getting into actually playing rando and giving it a good old college try.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, while this is a competition, a tournament, what we're looking for here is just to see these runners improve as this tournament goes along, and seeing everybody getting more experience under their belt.
I think one of my favorite things that I've seen so far within the group of racers that are in this tournament is just simply like the camaraderie that we've created together. You know, there's been plenty of runners hosting practice races just to kind of warm up for the tourney. And then now that the tourney is actually officially started, it's just really cool to see how these practices maybe affect how our runners are choosing to go.
Absolutely. And we do have WindFox going to be our first one up and out of the dungeons here. Drossy not too far behind. Unfortunately for both of our runners, it looks like these guards are not going to be giving us any bombs this seed. So we're going to have to hope that the rats in the sewers have some bombs for us.
We definitely don't want to have to come back to the back of escape if possible. They want to try and just get that check done, get those 3 chests, and not have to worry about finding a glove and getting back over this way.
So we'll see WindFox here go ahead and push aside this throne and get into the back of escape. As is typical with our standard mode, there will be a light cone here, despite the fact that neither of our runners has the lamp. This will go away once they leave here and drop Zelda off in the sanctuary. You can see WindFox here doing a little bit of farming on the rats, not getting anything so far. We still have a few rooms to go before we will know for sure.
Yeah, I definitely know these rats and these snakes can be very, very particular about if they feel like dropping anything for a moment. So you found that small key, which of course had to be there because we hadn't found it yet. And I do not believe, and I may have missed it, I do not believe we have found the map yet for Hyrule Castle.
I believe you are correct. So that what that means is that either the chest and sink is going to have it, or one of the 3 chests in the back of escape will. And chat pointing out and correcting me. Yes, the mode will in this mode the light cone will actually stay in here at least.
Oh, got it. I actually did not know that. If I were to come back here, the light cone would stay. Today I learned.
All right, but unfortunately, we are not getting the drop we're looking for. And WindFox is just going to head on out. I'm going to finish with about a 6-minute, 15-second escape here, if we can get a handle on this. There we go. And typically speaking, the sort of bar that most people like to set for that standard escape finds Yikes.
Finding 10 bombs in Sanctuary. It's like the goddesses are laughing.
But as I was saying, typically speaking, most people shoot for about a 6-minute escape. So our runners finishing right around that time. Oh, well.
Drossy got a bomb.
So that was some good knowledge. I think Drossy realized that this prize pack from the rats here had bombs deep enough in it and did a little more farming, and we'll see if he gets rewarded for it.
Let's see, 10 arrows and just more bombs, but that'll save him from having to, well, he's about to get a full bomb pack anyway, but I was thinking, 3 bombs, that'll help in Kakariko coming up here.
Yeah, but the nice thing about this for Drossy is that now it's out of his mind. He doesn't have to worry about it anymore, and almost certainly WindFox is going to have to come back for that, or will come back for it later. So that's time saved for Drossy, definitely, even if the items weren't great.
No, absolutely. And I will say this, I missed, actually, funny enough, because I was just so excited and hyped, I actually missed the uncle hint on where boots happen to be, and we found a hammer.
Yeah, hammer and the thief. I need the thief's drop down. Very nice.
Let's see, and that'll be excellent for when we do get closer to, when our runners do get closer to actually needing to really deal some damage, if we can't find any swords, that hammer's a really, really good weapon to be able to have. Even if it's short range, it does tempered damage, which is a good thing to have when you need it.
Oh yeah, the hammer is always something you like to see early, if only because you don't want it to be late. There are a lot of really terrible places hammer can end up being. And thank you to chat for informing us. Boots are in the light world, which in Ambrosia is going to be the hint you see most often. It's also the least helpful.
We also have a lovely flute.
Yeah, this is a fantastic set of items to get early, and there's the gloves. Oh my goodness.
Wow, so now at this point, just a moon pearl from being able to visit the dark world.
I kind of hope we see it. It'd be really interesting if we were to get that moon pearl, say, here in Kakariko, because there are a lot of choices you can make from that. If you're feeling confident enough to go immediate dark world, I find that to be my personal preference. We got a master
Nice.
sword here.
See, and it'd be interesting to know what, if a moon pearl does show up here in Kakariko, if, one, we see route divergence from our runners, two, if the mentors maybe coach their runners to go a certain way, if they decide to say, you know what, you got the moon pearl, let's go to dark world, or, I know you got the moon pearl, but let's do some more light world checks, maybe find some more hearts and get you a little bit more safetied up before hitting up the dark world. And a tempered at the bottle vendor.
Well, it's great, but anytime I see a seed do this, I am instantly filled with dread, because it usually means that we're in for a bad time later on. It is nice to get all this stuff. Don't get me wrong. Having Tempered Sword early makes a lot of other things much more simple, but it's usually a good sign that the seed has some tricks for us up its sleeve.
I'm just waiting to see if Butter Sword shows up now somewhere in Kakariko. As many swords as we've gotten, just go ahead and give them all right at the beginning of the seed.
We're through the back of Chicken Hut here. Only have the back of the tavern and a couple more checks by library and race game. Fortunately, no bottle, so we're not going to be checking Sick Kid, WindFox.
Not yet.
Good thought, but unfortunately, with no bottle, that check is not available at the moment. And we got the Fire Rod.
Poof. This
has been a loaded Kakariko.
No kidding. This is definitely a nice opening for our runners here. Just a heart container.
A full heart.
Yep. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah, and we're going to get a quick look at race game here. WindFox is not going to go through. Just going to have a look, and there's the mirror.
Definitely backtracking to go ahead and grab that.
100%. So we have some options here. And with that flute, it actually makes what would otherwise be some very tough checks to make, or kind of lengthy ones to make. We can actually check stuff like Agnes Cave becomes a lot more easy to route in here.
Mm-hmm. And Ice Rod Cave as well. Nobody really likes to have to walk over to those one-offs.
Yeah, and WindFox immediately going to flute. It's going to be interesting to see where they end up going.
Oh, they're turning into mushroom.
Yeah. I think this is a good call. Get this information early. The one downside here, and it's something I would consider, but I'd probably still be doing this, is that it does preclude us from potentially doing fake powder later. We do get some armor out of it, though, so not a complete wash.
No, and I'm certain that as a runner in the mentor tourney, WindFox is probably pretty decently happy to see that early on like this.
All right. Going to Dam immediately afterwards, and getting a red boomerang there, making nice use of that mirror glitch, where in these sorts of caves and underworld locations, if you spam the mirror while pushing a block, it will make it disappear.
It is one of the really great things about having that mirror super early pre-dam is being able to just save a little bit of time by doing that. You don't have to leave and come back in. It just teeny a bit of time, but every bit of time save in the long run will help.
Yeah, those screen transitions, they cost you more time than you would think. So being able to save any bit of any screen transitions is absolutely worthwhile. So Drossy, after getting that mirror, instantly went to the dam, is now going to be joining WindFox and Mini Moldorm. We've got 5 checks here.
See, oh, and there's our boots. So now these one-off locations are even faster.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it probably makes a lot of sense now to head over to Ice Rod Cave. WindFox fluting away and going to 8, as I suspected. And we'll be making use of these boots. One of the big things about this series of checks here is that you typically want to be able to route this in with your Zora checks, including the Waterfall Fairy. And if you don't have Moon Pearl, unfortunately, you can't do that. But with these boots, we're going to be able to do a trick here, and we'll see if WindFox goes for it, where we're going to dash along the edge of this pit. He is pulling out his flute, so let's see if he goes for it. Doesn't, but that's okay. There is a trick you can do to actually water walk with the boots from that location, and it makes routing in Zora a lot easier. But given that we have the flute, it's okay for us to be, checking some of these other locations first. We can always get back to that location pretty easily.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if they don't want to set up the water walk itself, just fluting to 8 and setting up a fake flippers is just as easy. Let's see, Agina's Cave.
We have our first little bit of divergence here as well, as WindFox gets a Piece of Heart from Agina's. We see Drossy is actually going to be heading to the old man. Actually fluted to 1 and is going to attempt this dark room here. Yeah, it was interesting. We saw WindFox actually skip out on looking at Desert Ledge. I would think in that situation you'd really want to take a look at that if you're going to be fluting to Agina's. Information is quite valuable in these types of races.
No, I agree. And we're going to see him go ahead and get his arrows and bombs here from the back of Escape, as well as his Hyrule Castle map. And see, it looks like Drossy might be having a little bit of trouble with this dark room.
I think Drossy actually just got to the next screen over to get the old man, and should be making his way back around. There we go. He's now moving upwards at a diagonal, which is a good sign.
And this will be down to the backs. Perfect. See, and it looks like WindFox is going to be making possibly the play from the front, or just kidding, he's going to check Bonk Rocks.
Yep, making use of these boots as soon as possible. It's a play I like. And yet again, once you've got that flute, you have a lot more leeway to make these sorts of one-off checks. But we are going to see Drossy now making his climb up the mountain. And with that mirror and that hammer, we have access to a lot here on Light Death Mountain. WindFox is going to be right behind him, however. Also going for this dark room, old man.
Looks like Drossy was trying to set up the sword spin dash. Didn't quite get it, but thanks to those boots, he still got over here pretty quick. Just some bombs on top and an ether medallion inside Spectacle Rock.
It takes this drop, and this is it's going to be a little bit of an extra time waste. Generally, you just go back out the way you came from there, and then do the drop down. But now we have to go back through this
up.
tunnel and climb back up. Yeah. So this can be a little bit of a time loss. We definitely want to be getting that ether medallion. Obviously, we don't know whether Misery Mire or Turtle Rock are pendants or crystals, or even if they require ether medallion. But we definitely don't want to be taking the chance that we do need it.
Right, and it looks like he's not getting the ether medallion right this moment anyway. But we are getting a map check, and it looks like we've got blue and red pendants on Swamp and Pod, and we've got a 5/6 crystal over in Thieves Town.
Yep. So both of those dungeons are required, Misery Mire and Turtle Rock. So I don't think there's any way we can leave this mountain without grabbing that at some point. Now, you may just want to save it for afterwards. Because if you don't know the bomb jump to get back, it can be a little bit of a lengthy process to get back up the mountain. But we are both runners going straight into Hera. I don't think WindFox even checked Spectral Rock Cave. I didn't see him.
I don't think he did either.
You see Drossy there taking a death. I'm believing that was intentional just to get some health back.
Makes sense. Set up a real quick death work. Get a free couple of hearts. See, I do not believe... Oh, maybe they did check. Chat is saying yes, they did check Light World, and we're seeing that green pendant is Desert Palace, but I'm not sure where the other 5/6 crystal in the Light World is.
Well, we'll see if that comes into play. Both our runners here making their way up the tower. Unfortunately, even if they were to have Herapot known, no hook shot means we're not going to be able to do it this seed. Even if they were comfortable with it, we're just going to have to go it the normal way. And with that tempered sword, Moldorm should be a lot easier of a fight. Just one spin and one slash will do the trick.
Absolutely, and both WindFox and Drossy found their one heart piece, so they know basement is not necessary and big chest is not necessary because due to the mode, Moldorm is guaranteed to have an item, and it looks like it was just 300 big ones.
Yep, but we do have our first crystal, so always worthwhile. And I saw Drossy there trying to do this bumper dash that WindFox also got. Fortunately, started a little bit too high and ended up falling into that pit. But Drossy now onto his Moldorm fight. And now WindFox is going to be checking this Ether Medallion here at Spectral Rock Cave.
Yeah, and it definitely looks like he's going to quickly run and try and grab that. We have another fall on Drossy's side. Trolldorm knows no bounds to his trollhood.
Yeah, this can be a tricky fight. Moldorm sometimes just doesn't want to cooperate. And got Drossy there, but we got another shot at it. And there we go. Down goes Moldorm.
All right, and after WindFox grabbing his Ether Medallion, it'll be interesting to see if he heads straight over to the right side to check out our good old friends Spiral Cave and Paradox Cave, which I'm guessing he will.
Yeah, this is one of those, especially as a mentor, this would be a situation where absolutely be saying, we need to check the mountain. And you can see Drossy heading over there immediately. I would assume that the way that Drossy is going to end up routing this, since he knows that Ether Medallion is back at Spectral Rock, is going to be to check Floating Island, drop down using Spiral Cave, get that item, and then come back up doing Paradox Cave. And that way he can route all the way back over and just get his Ether Medallion last. But we want to be making as few trips up the mountain as possible. It's such a time sink that can often be the difference in these types of races. So we want to be checking everything we can up here.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Spiral Cave, let's see, has just a bloopy. Unfortunate. But at least our runners are not having to do what we would call the walk of shame thanks to those boots.
Always very nice to avoid that if you can.
And see, Drossy looking a little low on health too, so unless he picks up these pots down here, if he plans to bomb jump across here, it'll be a little difficult.
Yeah, and important to remember that Drossy has not turned in that mushroom yet, so it's still on green mail, which bombs cause a heart of damage. But these two pots here are pretty nice in that they allow you to get a little bit healed up before you have to make this bomb jump.
Let's see what the top here has. Or bottom, technically? Paradox Cave is weird.
And pointing out something here, WindFox actually took a different route into Paradox Cave. As we get the book, that's really interesting. Definitely makes Desert a much more
and the ice rod
valuable play, or even a possible play, I should say. But as I was saying before we got those items, you actually saw WindFox take the more upper path and use that mirror to go in where Drossy is currently. But this is interesting. Wondering where Drossy is planning on going from here, because
don't have the mitts.
We have no way back over here. It's going to take a death.
Ooh, half magic on the desert ledge as WindFox checks in and is using that book, putting it to good use.
Yeah, Drossy is going to start on the mountain, so they are definitely not leaving that Ether Medallion behind. And yeah, I agree. There's no way that you can leave here without grabbing that first. But WindFox is going to be the first to show us Desert Palace. That book and the early boots were a pretty clear sign that it's a sign that there's potentially something here. So I like this play into Desert.
Absolutely. And to think again, thinking of the mode, we know that Landmolus is guaranteed to have at least one of the items, which means one of these front chests is going to have the other item. And after that, WindFox will be able to just leave and head to the back if he'd like. We do have a fire source with that fire rod, so Landmo is available.
Oh my goodness. So I was watching this happen and wondering why Drossy was going back into Dark World. And the reason was that they wanted to check that ether tablet. And hey, that's where our Moon Pearl is.
Brilliant. Oh, and that's going to put WindFox quite a bit behind by not going and staying and checking that really quickly.
Yeah, this is actually really unfortunate for WindFox. Because he has checked everything else on the mountain aside from that, it's going to be really hard to make the call to go back there. We're probably going to be full clearing Desert Palace here for this green pendant, and then probably heading straight for Eastern to check Sahasrahla, green pendant, and the 2 items in the dungeon. Meanwhile, Drossy now has it's a large portion of the game opened up to him. We have Dark World access.
And I would assume that that's exactly where he's going to head to first, is just sprint on over to Kakariko. Why flute when you can run? Or maybe not. He's going to check Bonk Rocks first and then probably flute that way.
Yep, I like this routing. You get this out of the way. I also don't believe that Drossy checked Lumberjack Ledge. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him actually go north, give that a look, and then flute to 3 or 4, depending on which route into the Dark World he wants to take. But he's actually still going to leave it for now. I know that some runners like to wait until they have the full requirements for maybe changing our minds. Yeah, now he's going to head north. I know some runners like to wait until they have the full complement of necessary stuff to get Lumberjack, which is obviously boots, boots, fighter sword and cape, or master sword and the lamp. But I think in this situation, since we're already checking Bonk Rocks, it's going to be tough for us to get back to this location and make it make sense. So I like this play to take a look at this, see if it's required, and then, move on to Dark World.
I agree, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see what we find in the Village of Outcasts here, as well as here on Landmo as WindFox enters the boss fight here.
Looks like there was some maybe on-the-fly decision making happening there for Drossy, because flew to 3, and then I guess the consensus in their race room was to make this play instead. I think either one is perfectly valid. You've got the Fire Rod for Skull Woods and the Hammer for Thieves Town, so you could just do those dungeons and kind of use that as your starting point. But I think this also works. You're getting Hype Cave, and then you can go one of a few different directions from here.
Let's see, will Hype Cave live up to its name while we're here? Which is a big 20 so far. Funny. Our second bottle that we found, the first one being in Desert Palace.
And I'll highlight a really good point from Cool Papa Bell in chat. Hype first is really good if you're a little bit less confident in your ability to be able to do Skullwoods Thieves Town with green mail and 5 hearts. So maybe doing this to get a little bit of extra safety, utility, and then head into those dungeons.
And it looks like actually we're going to get our second tablet check here from Drossy as well, while WindFox goes to see what Sahasrara has with that green pendant.
Yeah, this green pendant could be his one saving grace this seed if it does end up being progression. Oh, wow.
Oh, whoa.
Now, that's really interesting. That bow could very well have been our silvers, our potential silvers. So there could be another bow that's logically out there that Drossy will come across, just kind of naturally proceeding through this. But if that is our required bow, that is very interesting.
Just as we progress through the rest of this seed, it'll be telling whether or not that was a crazy good play or if it's going to just be a helpful play when it comes to Ganon.
And this is pretty fantastic for WindFox either way, because now he just gets to full clear this dungeon, and we'll see how his dark rooms are. But he's got that Fire Rod, so the sort of back dark room with the guards whose names I'm blanking on now.
Igors.
The Igors, yes, thank you.
No worries.
He'll be able to light that up with that Fire Rod, so that won't be nearly as big of an issue as it normally would be.
This is true. And I see chat kind of mentioning, not having the bow right off could be bad for Drossy, but we need to keep in mind also that WindFox will still have to eventually return to Death Mountain just to be able to get his Moon Pearl off of Ether Tablet.
Yes, it's true. But, and on the positive end here for WindFox, he's going to get locked out pretty quickly. That Moon Pearl obviously locks off a huge portion of the game, that being Dark World. So once he's done here with Eastern, trying to think on what he even has left, it's really not much. Technically speaking, I think Zora's the only thing still in logic. So he's going to have to get back up the mountain pretty soon regardless.
That's true, and we just had Drossy go ahead and pick up that heart container from the library, which I blame him for wanting to grab just a quick safety.
Yeah, and I think that definitely points to the thought process here being we want to get as much utility and safety as possible before we start moving into Skullwoods and Thieves Town on this green mail.
Absolutely. And WindFox had a moment where I think he was planning to head towards the vanilla big key chest, but then realized, oh, I've gotten 2 items so far. Armos has to have the 3rd remaining item in Eastern. Turned back around and started to head towards the back. And that was a really nice dark room from him as well.
Putting that fire rod to use. And this whole Eastern Palace right here is totally in logic for WindFox with that fire rod. So what potentially could have been a time waste with a double dip here with that bow has actually really saved WindFox a lot of time.
This is true, and it looks like Drossy is going to be heading back towards the Dark World, but on the Village of Outcast side, so it'll be fun to see what he manages to find in this area.
Looks like we're heading down to... Yeah, going to Village of Outcast first, it looks like. Once again, trying to get as many items as possible before hitting those 2 dungeons. It's perfectly fine. WindFox, he nearly had the quick kill there on the Armos Knights. Just got a little bit off-centered from where he wanted to be standing, but still going to get a kill onto them and gets the final item from Eastern and his 2nd crystal.
Yeah, it's definitely looking good for him. And like you said, I think at this point, the only logical place that he has that isn't Ether Tablet, I believe, is Zora, like you said. And he definitely has the money for it. Let's see where he ends up flipping to.
So at this point, WindFox and Shireen, I imagine, are just kind of going over what their potential locations are even at this point. So it looks like WindFox is indeed going to go back to Ice Rod Cave. And while he checked this earlier, this is specifically going to be to set up this water walk.
Oh, we have a hook shot in Sea House. Drossy's side.
That is a very nice find. It actually puts us flippers away from being able to full clear Swamp. But of course, Swamp being a pendant, probably hoping not to have to ever get into that dungeon. Now we see WindFox here trying to, I'm assuming that Treen and him are kind of just going over the basically how the basics of this trick. And what it is simply from the Ice Rod Cave, getting relatively close to the edge. You don't have to be all the way like on the furthest pixel. You just have to be relatively close to it. Dash down and out. And then, fortunately, he's trying to do it from here, and don't believe you can actually do it from this ledge. He needs to head down a screen, and he has to drop down straight north to south.
This is definitely a trick that I've seen executed, but I have not attempted it myself, so I'm very interested to see if he successfully gets it, and he does.
So the problem, unfortunately, the problem with doing it right here is that there's another waterfall that you have to drop down, which will kill your water walk. And with this, unfortunately, he is going to have to save and quit due to bonking.
That's unfortunate, and unfortunate on Drossy's side too, because we had a death on Drossy's side.
I wasn't paying as much attention to Drossy there. It might have been a intentional death warp to get more health, but either way, it looks like we've got all 4 items in the front. We're going to be heading to the back. Now, one thing I can say for WindFox here is this is good because it looks like it's pushed him to head up the mountain, which we know is going to get him his Moon Pearl.
And that's exactly what he needs to be able to continue on. And it'll make routing in Zora a lot easier, because then you can just go catfish and mirror to those checks once you have, hopefully, the flippers to make it easier, if it's even necessary.
Yeah, totally. So he's still got all that stuff up in Zora area that he can potentially do later on. We can even, like you said, route it in with catfish or something of that nature. Drossy heading towards the back of Thieves Town here, while WindFox heads up to Ether Tablet to get his Moon Pearl, and now officially has Dark World access.
Now, I find it interesting that Drossy has still chosen to not flute to 2 to turn in his mushroom. And my brain is thinking, okay, maybe Days Cloud has suggested, you know what, hold on to it for a little bit. If we find the cane, we can go ahead and use that mushroom to fake powder.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what's going on, and that was my first thought when WindFox went up there. Was it's I don't think either play is wrong necessarily, but given that Magic Bat is very often not required, it's super rare that I find it to be. I would rather just check that mushroom, especially with how early we got it. Of course, the ideal situation is to save scum the mushroom, which you can do by just making sure that you do a save and quit, then go turn the mushroom and hard reset if it ends up being nothing. In this case, though, with it being blue mail, and with our runners maybe being needing a little bit more of those safeties, I think it's perfectly fine to check that, get that armor, and keep it.
No, I absolutely agree. And I, as a runner, would feel much more comfy with a blue mail.
Yeah, I'd say the difference. Oh my, those are flippers, as we were just talking about. But the difference between green mail and blue mail is. Oh yeah, sorry. I was just gonna say the difference between green mail and blue mail is pretty hefty.
And then I was just going to add that based on key logic, Blind cannot have his own small key, so we know that the small key is actually locked. And on top of that, it's Ambrosia, so we know Blind has an item here. But no big chest needed.
All right, let's see how Drossy does on this scripted, quote-unquote, part of the blind fight. Doesn't look like we're going to get it, and we're going to have to probably make use of that red potion. Use it.
Oh.
Yeah, this fight is either supremely easy or incredibly difficult, and especially on this amount of health and green mail. And yeah,
looks like he'll just leave and come back. I don't blame him.
I'm sure that probably what Days Cloud is telling him. While that one item is definitely going to stick in your craw a little bit, it's way better to put this off and come back later once you're a little bit more prepped for it. That fight, especially once you've died once there, is just, it's really not. So yeah, I'm absolutely with this call. Looks like we're gonna maybe do a quick, before in Skullwoods, looks like we're gonna do maybe a quick Graveyard Ledge. We're gonna be checking Bumper Ledge and King's Tomb potentially. Oh,
Bumper Ledge with the Cane of Samaria.
Well, that is certainly something.
That it is, which means our cape has to be somewhere easily-ish accessible in the world.
So that's yet another thing our runners are going to have to be keeping an eye out for.
Let's see. Maybe he'll be lucky. Maybe the cape will be just placed really fortuitously here at Graveyard Ledge. And then it's just a hop and a skip back on over.
Well, that would certainly be nice.
But this is rando. Who are we kidding?
So interesting here, when Drossy exits this dungeon, see if he ends up mirror bonking. Yeah.
Oh, he did?
So one thing you might see runners do here is to use their mirror a little bit to the left or right of that entrance. And the reason why is just what you saw there. Unfortunately, if you do the mirror right in front of the entrance to Graveyard Ledge, when you exit, Link is immediately going to head back in and will get bonked back due to his head hitbox being inside of the wall. So just a little minor thing, but helps you with those time saves.
Absolutely, and we find a fire shield here in King's Tomb. So just some more safeties. Can't ever really hurt.
Yeah, there are potential ways you can avoid that mirror bonk if you do end up putting the portal right in front of the door. Now we're going to see WindFox on his Thieves Town here. It's going to be a little bit off script, I think. Yeah. You really have to make sure that you stay pretty much dead center in the screen to be able to get this. Otherwise, the knockback from your pokes are going to push you off center. This is going to be real tricky. Oh,
I think he might have a fairy in a bottle, though. Oh, he does.
yeah, that was a real good call to get that fairy. I can't remember if they found that or if he actually bottled it, but oh, there's our powder.
Found it and found the powder. I believe that he found that one in Desert Palace.
Well, that's a very nice save for WindFox, and we'll see if that powder leads to anything. We can actually check Magic Bat now with that. And as was also pointed out, Thief Sound being the other 5/6 crystal does mean that we have Pyramid Fairy access, which is going to make routing. Yeah, it's going to make routing in the Pyramid item and Catfish a lot easier once WindFox decides to do that.
And I'm sure there's almost a small little tiny possible bit of relief too, knowing that he doesn't have to try and find that cane, or as we know it, find the cape to get to the cane, where he can really do anything with Magic Bat since he turned that mushroom in.
Yeah, so Drossy spending a little bit extra time here swimming. We could just flute from that small little patch of shallow water by the man under the bridge. I think actually what he wants to do is he wants to check the height of the island. Okay, so giving that a look-see before heading over to Zora.
Seeing WindFox going to go ahead and follow where Drossy had been, checking Graveyard Ledge and presumably King's Tomb afterwards. It'll be interesting to see if our Waterfall Fairy has anything fun for us today. And maybe possibly, hopefully, a bottle check of some sorts.
Yep, we can toss our bottle in there. Actually, I think, oh, well, there's our cape.
Here's our cape.
Drossy did fill his bottle with red potion, so won't be able to make use of the fairy fountain there. Probably doesn't want to, just in case it is a bee.
No, and I do not blame him.
I'm going to be really interested to see what WindFox decides to do next. Both of our runners completely skipped Skull Woods, even though it is fully clearable. I'm wondering if WindFox is going to head back there or potentially head across towards Catfish and do.
Oh, and that's an interesting thought there, because Drossy, because he came to the Zora area from the Light World, he has kind of left Catfish as its one-off location by itself. Which could be a completely fine thing, but it could also be something that, turns out to hurt in the end.
So WindFox didn't actually check Bumper Ledge on his way over to Graveyard Ledge, so now he is seeing that. And I have to assume the plan was to come back here and go into finish Skull Woods. Drossy is finally going to be turning in this mushroom.
I'll be happy to find that blue mail.
Yeah, I definitely will be. We still don't know what Magic Bat requires, but of course, with Powder being on blind, it won't be that big of an issue. There's our bow. So that bow right there in Skull Woods is 100% our first logically required bow. And I would assume the seed... I know all the seeds obviously expect you to get silvers, but yeah, that one on green pendant is probably one I'd have to imagine we won't be seeing Drossy get that.
No, unless he happens to decide to run to Desert immediately after getting Mire, like perhaps if he's still missing some kind of item for possibly Turtle Rock, maybe Turtle Rock entrance, and he decides to route in both. But no, I agree with you. I don't, unless it's a situation like that, I don't see him getting silvers either.
Well, here's the other thing to consider with this seed. We are officially, well, not officially, we are pretty close to Mitts from Go mode. Obviously, the big thing we need to keep in mind is our medallions. We don't know what we need for our entry into Turtle Rock or Misery Mire. But beyond those, Mitts are the only other item that are still kind of out there.
And Lamp, too.
Yes, this is very true. And something that I think some of us more experienced runners maybe take for granted a little bit is that, especially in a dungeon like Misery Mire, Lamp can be a very nice thing to have.
All right, and we've got a moth fight. See, and it looks like Drossy maybe decided to skip the front of Skull Woods for right now, deciding let's just check the back. Because we know Moth for sure has an item.
WindFox needs to be careful here. Oh. Yeah, this fight can be a real doozy. Even if you have, blue mail, those spikes are always going to do heart of damage. So if you're having trouble dodging those, that fight can get away from you real quick. Luckily, he has half magic, so that's not going to really be an issue as we head back through here. And the point you're making on Drossy is a good one. And it's something that people have different opinions on. I personally like to go to the back first, especially in Ambrosia, when I know that there's going to be one item on Mothula. It's always possible that the second item is going to be right here up front. But obviously this time the bow is in the front, so Drossy is going to have to make his way back there to get that.
Absolutely, and Moth fight round 2. See, making use of that fire rod to get some really good hits on Moth so he can kind of stay at a range and just focus on avoiding the spike traps.
Two still need to be careful, but we're real close. Just take your time. Nice. Some very nice dodging going on there at the end of that fight. And WindFox going to take down Mothula, get his 4th crystal. We're really motoring on so far this seed.
Absolutely. It kind of seems like WindFox and through the coaching and mentoring of Shireen are kind of trying to search for their items, I would say more so in dungeons, whereas Drossy is kind of choosing, let's go ahead, Drossy with Days Cloud, I should say, kind of choosing, let's go ahead and check the overworld a little bit and then head into the dungeons as we need to. And just some couch cash on Ped. R.I.P. the dream.
I'd like to see Drossy pull out his red potion here. Yep. There we go. And this is one thing I think that's really important for newer runners to kind of keep in mind is that, while it's nice to be able to clutch out a fight with a low heart count like WindFox was able to do there, dying is infinitely more punishing. It costs you so much time. So you've got that safety, you invested in it, go ahead and pull it out, use it, and make sure that you don't die. And Drossy gets the kill. That, I believe, is his 2nd crystal, yes.
Yep, and we'll see him more than likely right now go ahead and head back towards the front and see if he can't find that 2nd item here in Skull Woods, which we know is in, I believe it's the vanilla map chest of Skull Woods?
I believe you are correct, yes.
See, WindFox over here, it looks like, is going to go ahead and see what's on our friend, the magic bat.
So, question for chat. WindFox did check Bumper Cave. However, he has not been over to Waterfall where the cape was. So, he knows it's there and knows that he needs cape, but fortunately does not have it yet to be able to pick it up. And you see that Drossy here actually made use of the more traditional method of getting to the big chests rather than doing the bomb jump. Did he get the bow? No, he's going back in. I think. Okay, so he left to go and went back in to make it so that he can mirror directly back to that front door.
Which makes sense, and it looks like WindFox is going to go ahead and check out our digging game. It'll be interesting to see where Drossy decides to go with his new bow information.
Well, I have to imagine that Pod and Eastern are both extremely high on the priorities, aside from obviously this cane, because we're right here. We know it's there. We've got the cape. Yeah, going straight for it.
Yeah, and this makes sense to me, because that cane can help you with a bunch of different little glitches. Icebreaker, in particular, is a great one. And if Swamp has to be dipped, Diver Down is such a good time save as well.
Absolutely. And while Diver Down is possible without the cane, I think most people prefer to use cane in that scenario rather than bombs. I feel like it's a lot more consistent with that setup. Now, this is going to be really interesting. Yeah, this is going to be really interesting. So I have to imagine that WindFox, I mean, they've got to go pod now. I'd have to assume that's what they're talking about. Like, unless they would really want to get crazy and go into Swamp, which I don't know of anybody who would want to do that with an open crystal dungeon.
Who likes to go to Swamp even when it is a crystal?
There are a few crazy people out there like that, I'm sure, but in this scenario, I cannot foresee any reason they would put off Pod. I mean, it's fully clearable. Oh, I'm sorry, Pod's also a pendant. Excuse me. Yes, Smiths could be on left side Swamp, but typically as a runner, I prefer not to live in the world where that's the case. Yeah, okay, here we go. Pendant, gonna get this big bomb pyramid fairy play going. And as I mentioned, that's going to allow them to very quickly route in Catfish and the Zora area as well.
And I was going to say, I do not believe WindFox has gone to the Zora area yet.
No, and as we know, that's where our cape is, which is hard required this seed. So this will actually be really good. Even if nothing is in Pyramid Fairy or on the pyramid or at Catfish, this will inevitably lead him to get that cape and get the cane.
And we have Drossy, it looks like, going to go ahead and try again with Blind. Hopefully this time go ahead and take him down so that he can go ahead and also do his Pyramid Fairy.
Yeah, we've got that blue mail, we've got some more health, we have the cape, we've got
our mitts.
Well, we are in potential go mode, but we really need to figure out what our entry is into both Mire and Turtle Rock. So I imagine that WindFox is going to finish out this play here, get through Zora, and then my thought would be to make an immediate Mire check.
I agree, because the glorious thing would be, hey, Ether opens up both Mire and Turtle Rock, but until we know for sure, there could be a really nasty medallion hunt coming.
Yeah, but you saw Drossy there, you making nice use of that cape that he got and takes down Blind. So Drossy now also in a position to be able to get those mitts. We'll see how quickly he's able to get over there and do that.
And unfortunately, just a big 20 from Catfish today.
The WindFox is going to be very happy to find what he finds in here.
No, absolutely. And I think while our runners are go ahead and checking some things that we've already seen before, let's go ahead and just give them a shout out, give them a follow if you like what you're seeing, if you want to support them. They are really great people, and this is, I want to say, for probably most of us, are one of our first like real like tourney racing experiences. And so it can be a little daunting to join something like this, but support those runners. They are great people for trying to put themselves out there and learn more about Rando.
Absolutely. Give those guys a follow. It takes a lot of guts to put yourself out there and put on a show for us like this. So thank you to them. And yeah, let's give a quick thank you to our tracker, Spam Masubi, and Emrith, who is restreaming the race for us. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
So now this is interesting, and I don't blame Drossy for making this play, and this play makes sense. We're going straight for Eastern Palace, checking Sahasrara. We've got that bow now, so we can fully clear this dungeon the same way that WindFox did earlier.
This is true. I'm going to be interested to see if, well, really where WindFox is going to go after getting his cane. I would assume with those mitts, he's going to flute straight to Meyer.
Yeah, I think that's the play here, because what we need more than anything right now is information. We know we have all of our non-medallion items. The only thing we don't know about at this point is what our entry is into Turtle and Misery Mire. So we need to figure those things out first, and then we can base all our decisions from there off of that.
This is true. And even with that piece of information, even if it is either, it'll be interesting to see if WindFox still goes in based on those dark rooms that you need to be able to get to Vitreous. I don't know how comfortable he may be with these dark rooms in Mire.
Yeah, I think definitely if you feel comfortable enough that you're going to be able to get through those rooms, then I think you go for it. But yeah, it can be really tough. That first dark room of Mire is, in my personal opinion, people feel a little differently, and it is Ether. I personally find that dark room to be the most challenging in the game.
Yeah, I know that me personally, I would feel very uncomfortable trying to go in there without a lamp, but there's always that potential of maybe the lamp is the one other item that's in Mire.
It's always possible. Of course, the thing to keep in mind is that in Ambrosia, only one of those items is going to be available to you. The other one is going to be behind that dark room. But it looks like WindFox gonna go for it. And if nothing else, I definitely respect the play to go in here.
I agree. And even if he does decide to, if he's feeling nervous about that dark room, guarantee Shireen is going to be coaching him through it to try and help him get through it as best as he possibly can.
Absolutely, and that's what the mentors are going to be there. That's why they're there for our runners, is to coach them through things like this. See if we can get them to try some things that may be a little outside their comfort zone. because this is one of those things that can make such a. It's one of the bigger things when you're looking for time saves in rando racing like this. Being able to do these dark rooms is huge because we honestly, there's no telling where that lamp could be. It could be somewhere truly, truly awful. So being able to do this dark room is huge for keeping your times down.
Let's see, and so far just some keys and dungeon items on WindFox's side. Drossy getting about ready to go into his Armos fight here.
From Drossy's end, this is such an interesting situation. Thing is, he's got a lot more options than WindFox. Well, WindFox had the same options, but basically, he's got pod, swamp, and pyramid route. I want to say is basically what he's got left. And unfortunately, since he's already done all of the Zora area stuff, that's one less series of checks to throw in with the pyramid ferry route. So I'm going to be really interested to see what they decide to do next after this Eastern Palace play.
Let's see. Fluting 2. It looks like the pyramid is going to be his play unless he decides to throw us for a loop and head down to swamp.
I was going to say potentially, but this one could go either way. I think it's safe to say they're not thinking about pod if they're coming here, but
probably not Ice Palace either.
Well, since we don't have mitts, Ice Palace is off the table.
Oh, this is true. He has not gotten his mitts yet because he has to go to Pyramid to get them.
Yeah, but this is looking good. We're heading the right direction for those mitts. So looks like Drossy is also going to get into medallion mode here.
Let's see, and it does look like WindFox is going to go ahead and head to the back and try out this Darkram.
Yep, we'll see. There are some good setups that you can get, such as kind of riding along the top side of the wall in this room and approaching the pot from the side, and then just immediately dropping your Samari block. You can also do it from the top. The issue becomes once you kind of lose your way in this room, it can be a little more difficult. Looks like what they're going for, however, here is throwing the Samaria block from the bottom of the room up to the switch. And he got it.
Wow, this is... I was going to say it's incredible to watch, even though we really can't see anything, but that is something that's pretty awesome to be able to do. Just, as the kids would say, yeet the block.
I guess the kids say that. I don't know.
We're
a little bit outside the age range. I'm a little bit outside that age range, but sure, I suppose so. We're not quite out of the woods yet. We got a couple more rooms to go, but after that first room, these should be pretty easy. We got through that second room by using the cape to get past the moving spike. Now we've got to head north and hit this last switch, and we should be home free.
Absolutely. Well done, WindFox, getting through what even chat was kind of agreeing that Meyer is one of the hardest Darkrooms. That, and they mentioned also Aga Tower.
Oh, well, yes, that is actually the most difficult, but not one that you typically find yourself having to do in a race. It's much more common that you're going to end up having to do this Meyer Darkroom.
And these silver arrows are going to help so much.
It makes this fight so much simpler. All right, and a little bit of a different tack here from Drossy is actually going to head up the mountain first. So we're going to get a look at Turtle Rock. Get dead rocked, unfortunately. But he's going to check Turtle Rock first. And WindFox going to take a little bit more time here, make some extra checks. Going to have a look at Checkerboard Cave. Makes sense in this situation since we still don't know what Turtle Rock is going to require. And this will be really isolated if we don't get it now. So we're going to have a quick look here.
And I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, as we see arrows at Checkerboard Cave, I think this may be our first Dark Death Mountain play as well, because of those lack of mitts.
Yep. So Drossy is giving us our first look here. Gonna go for the hookshot strats through these blocks here. It's just, I think, a little bit too far to the right, unfortunately. There's a trick there with the hookshot where you can actually kind of clip into that rightmost block on top and push yourself off to the right to get through it. It's not terribly pixel precise, but you do have to be somewhat to the left of that rightmost block to be able to get it. Because basically what you're catching onto is the block behind it.
I still have such a hard time with that second clip there, trying to be able to clip and skip having to go up the stairs.
Yeah, the alternative, of course, being that you can use the mirror there to just completely remove the blocks. It looks like the strategy here from WindFox's side is just going to be to finish out these dungeons. We'll see how much of this dungeon they go mode. With that cane, they could potentially do Icebreaker and put a lot more checks on their path if they want to go mode this. Basically, the situation you find yourself in here with WindFox is you kind of have to make a gamble that Turtle Rock is not going to require any other medallions. If you know Icebreaker, you can make this a little bit more easy. You get a couple more checks that are a lot easier and closer on your way towards Cold Stare.
Absolutely. And by the way, sword upgrade on Drossy's side in Hookshot Cave.
But yes, very nice. But more importantly, we're in go mode, folks. That is Ether for both Turtle Rock and Misery Mire. So this is actually going to work out famously for WindFox. Depending on how much they're able to skip here in Ice Palace, they go straight up to Turtle Rock, go straight in the dungeon, and
And they may still just go ahead and end up checking just in case they do happen to get another medallion or the ever elusive lamp. Not that we really need it anymore, but in case the dark floating maze has a better name.
It's something like that. We do have a dark room in here, but it's definitely much easier than that Mire dark room. So if you feel confident enough with the Mire dark room, you should be able to get this one here.
Absolutely, and he may still, just on his way up to Turtle Rock, go ahead and stop in Hookshot Cave along the way, and he'll end up getting his gold sword too if he chooses to do that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, WindFox, assuming if he routes it like I would assume he would, we're going to be heading all the way up to the Turtle Rock portal. And once he sees that it's Ether Medallion, given his loadout, I'd imagine he's probably just going to go straight into TR and not bother with anything else. So it's likely, I think it's probably likely he's going to finish on Tempered Sword, but that should be plenty for him.
Absolutely, especially with the silver arrows. We'll have a silverless fight on Drossy's end. More likely than not.
We are on Cold Stare now, going to make use of that Fire Rod to do a lot of damage to those puffs and get the kill with 4 hearts. Still a bit of a scary fight on Blue Mail. Those puffs do a lot of damage.
Let's see, and we'll be seeing WindFox making his climb next as we see Drossy already through the first little bit of Turtle Rock. Not finding his big key yet, but that's okay.
Yeah, we could still have it right here in the Chain Chomp room. But the good news for Drossy here is that there's really not much difference between a Go Mode Turtle Rock and a non-Go Mode Turtle Rock. He's probably still going to be looking for stuff just in case, he obviously doesn't know what the Meyer Medallion is yet, but it won't lose him too much time in the grand scheme of things. And then I would imagine that immediately after this is going to be heading straight to Meyer to make sure they don't need another medallion.
This is true, and I think WindFox is going to have that moment of, oh, I'm in Go Mode, as soon as he sees that as well. And I think that might put a little happy spring in his step, if you will.
It's always quite the weight off your shoulders whenever you see it, because you're always bracing yourself for the worst as a runner, speaking from experience. But when you see that, you're like, oh well, here we go. I'm done. I don't need to check anything else. I've got everything I could possibly want to finish this seed, and he's right here on Death Mountain. As soon as he's done with Turtle Rock, it's going to be straight into GT.
And on top of that, without having to dip Pendant Pod or Pendant Swamp.
Yeah, I think what we can say here is this has been an incredibly well-run race by WindFox. Made the right calls. I mean, the Moon Pearl stuff early was unfortunate, but didn't let that get him down, and just kind of routed this really, really nicely. And it's going to pay off with a pretty exceptional time. This has been a pretty kind seed, but it did have some potential stumbling blocks that they were able to avoid.
This is true. It really just hit me how far time-wise we actually are into this seed. We're a minute 15 in and have been in Go Mode for quite a little bit now. This feels Jet Seed E.
I'd say this seed fits the definition. So we see Drossy here trying to get those mimics to move properly for him. The one thing you have to keep in mind when doing that is to make sure that you are not moving at all once you grab the... you need to come to a complete stop when you grab the railings before you can get it to work. Because it stores your movement. And basically what you're trying to do is to hold on to the wall and move them around while keeping Link stationary.
In chat, rightfully calling me out. 1 hour 15 minute seed, not 1 minute 15 second seed.
A minute 15 seed. I don't think we could call that a jet seed anymore. I don't think that has a name.
Supersonic. Past it. It'd have to be speed of light seed.
That's I teleported to Ganon seed. It's illegal.
I teleport to Ganon with all the items.
Illegal, mind you. But we got both runners here now in Turtle Rock. Unfortunately for Drossy, he still has a few more things to do, whereas WindFox looks to be in a pretty commanding lead.
Absolutely, because Drossy will still have to hop back down the mountain for Ice Palace and Meyer, and then make the climb right back. So this is WindFox's race to lose at this point.
Yeah, and I like this here, taking his time. These chain chomps really, really hurt. So just I have to imagine they're feeling pretty good about their chances given where they are in the seed time wise. Just making sure that you don't die, because as I mentioned before, dying is a huge time sink.
No, absolutely. And taking that moment to just go ahead and use that powder to grab a fairy from the anti-fairy. I mean, these little safeties, like you said, preventing death is the way to go. And interestingly enough, you mentioned, the really nasty damage that Chain Chomps can put out there. For those of you who maybe are new to this tourney, our host of the tourney is the Go Mode podcast, and their most recent episode, episode 48, discusses the different ways that we can take damage and how much damage is, I want to say, I guess, negated by the different males. And so definitely give the podcast a listen. It is really, really wonderful, and it's run by our gentlemen, Timp, Dante, and Herfy Durfy.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic podcast. That's just one of many episodes that they have that is chock full of really great information if you're just getting into running rando, even if you're not planning on racing it necessarily. A lot of fantastic tips and tricks. So give it a listen.
All right, both runners here in this kind of floating dark maze.
So a little bit of a, see WindFox here. Yeah, so this one can get a little bit tricky if you're not able to get the correct inputs right away, and he's going to give it a restart here, which is a good idea. Looks like he got to the middle platform. That's the first step. We need to hit that switch there, and then we're going to hold right and then down and then left. This can be a little bit daunting until you realize that you really just have to make sure that you're holding the directions in the correct order.
And really, truly, the spinning fireballs, because they're not quite fire snakes, but the spinning fireballs are really good checkpoints for when you need to change along that kind of right side of the room movement.
Yeah, those the fire bars there, I believe is what they're officially called. But WindFox making it through.
Absolutely, and trying to get this timing on the laser eyes, deciding, you know what, let's just use the cape.
Yeah, I imagine this maybe something he hasn't practiced as much. They do have the boots, so there are boot strats that I find to be a little bit more consistent if you've practiced them. But got to make use of that cape, which is perfectly fine. We've got a full magic refill coming up, so no reason to get yourself killed here if you're not comfortable with those laser skips. Meanwhile,
go ahead. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine. I was just going to say that Drossy, making his way through the room, finally does get through there. Very nicely done. And is going to find himself on Laser Bridge as well. I think in this situation for Drossy, I'd like to see him just go ahead and play it safe here. And looks like that's what he's going to do. Take this back exit. Again, really want to stress, dying is absolutely way worse than spending a little bit of extra time here to come out here and play it safe. WindFox on Trinex, trying to take down the last head here, the ice head. Needs to be careful only on 2 hearts.
This is true, and as the shell explodes from Trinex, we've got Drossy go ahead and making his laser bridge play.
And Trinex goes down. So yeah, playing it a little bit safer there, as always. A good call, and gets a heart piece for his troubles. But that does mean we have our 7th crystal on WindFox's side. And we don't have the bot on this channel, but there is a little game that we like to play just for fun. There are 22 checks in Ganon's tower. The game we like to play is trying to have a guess at where that big key is going to show up. Of course, the game will end once WindFox enters the tower, and we will see who gets the closest. Did you have a guess?
I really like to guess chest number 14, but in particular, Bob's chest.
See, I was going to say Bob's chest, and now I feel like I can't.
Oh, no.
No, it's all right. It's okay. I think what I'm going to say is we're looking at, you know what? Let's get a good bonkable torch big key. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Between the two of us, Bob's chest and Bob's torch, we've got it.
We got Bob covered.
Alrighty, as we go into the right side first, WindFox is going to check these hope chests. Piece of heart in the first one and a key in the second one, mirroring, and going to go head over to Bob's torch.
Oh, we do have the bot here. That's fun.
Hello, bot.
Hey! What do I win? Nothing, because I didn't put it in chat, but that's okay.
You win a fabulous golf clap.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll be here all night.
All right, and with that, big key on the torch, WindFox is going to go ahead and make his climb.
Yeah, Drossy, once again, because he does not know what Meyer's medallion is going to be taking a little bit more time here to ensure that he checks everything he can. Unfortunately, cost him a little bit more time trying to get through those laser skips without any magic, but is now going to be heading in for his Trinex fight. Meanwhile, WindFox, he has everything he could possibly want to finish this seed, gets that big key and grabs a small key very smartly, and is now going to begin making his climb up the tower.
All right, it looks like Drossy is going to go ahead and also just grab a couple little safeties, and I, again, do not blame him for this at all. Like you mentioned, he's wanting to make those checks really just to make sure he's covered all of his bases. See, WindFox entering the gauntlet, feeling... I imagine he's got to be feeling pretty good with a time like this.
Yeah, this is what kind of what you dream of with these sorts of races is, not having to. Obviously, he did Desert Palace early, but it was pretty quick and a very defensible decision. But being able to skip out on both Pendant Pod and Pendant Swamp has got to feel great. And yeah, he's going to finish with a very, very fantastic time for this seed. Just have the gauntlet and the rest of the tower in Ganon to contend with.
Absolutely. And we see Drossy go ahead and taking down the first two heads pretty quickly on Trinex. Going to get, I believe, 3 sword slashes with the gold sword to take him out. It's 3 or 4. 3. Nice.
Yeah. Shout out. Good point that has been made in chat with GFE. WindFox does not have his lamp. Now, with half magic, this is less of a concern, but he was pretty liberal with his magic use there through the gauntlet and is going to be walking up to the torch room with a little bit less than you'd like. But I think as long as he's able to get all the drops along the way, he should be fine. Yeah, and ideally I would have liked to see him. There was a large magic drop by one of the enemies in the previous room. Would have liked to see him grab that, but we should be okay here.
Yeah, I think he may have just enough to be able to make it through. And if he's feeling a little short, he can always pick up the small drops that happen to be in the torch room as we get there before he decides to light them.
Yeah, totally. We got 2 pots with small magic drops. The other thing to keep in mind here too, if he really needs to do it, is our stun price is a small magic. So we have options.
Absolutely. And as long as he picks up the one from this pot, he's good.
Yeah, he got it. And now we've got a full magic refill here. So played a little fast and loose with his magic, but is able to get through. And should be good to go for the rest of this seed. And Drossy we did get a quick spike cave check. Unfortunately didn't see what it was. It's going for Ice Palace. I really would have liked to see him go check on Meyer here. That bit of information is just really, really too valuable at this point. But we know that Ice is completely clearable. It's here. We know we have to do it. So it's not a terrible play, but you really want to try and get that information if you can.
This is true, and I think one of the last few big questions here is, will we get a check of Trolldorm's chest?
I hope not. Leave that thing behind. Do it, WindFox.
Oh, and see, I want the memes.
Oh, good man. Good man. You're a winner in my eyes.
No stealing from the worm.
Skip that chest.
Chat bringing up a good point as well. Moogle Charm and GFE. Drossy may be trying to find a lamp before he really goes to Meyer.
That may be. I think I still want to get that information first of all, because I want to know if I'm going to be able to go mode Ice Palace or if I need to keep searching for items. But yeah, I mean, he could. It's definitely possible he might be trying to find that lamp. Unfortunately, I want to say that WindFox found everything in here, and we still don't know where that lamp is. I mean, it's almost certainly in one of our pinned dungeons at this point, but. We do have an Aga 2 fight going on WindFox's side. Struggling to get any multi-hit ones in there, but does get all 6 and is going to be heading off for his Ganon fight at an hour 31. This is going to be a very nice time.
And we've got Drossy also attempting Icebreaker on his side as well as we crash into the pyramid and begin our fight with the big pig. Just kidding. Gonna go buy some safeties first, I'm assuming.
Looks like we're going to maybe get this fairy. No, he's got the mirror out, so yeah, it looks like we're heading for... I like this. You're probably feeling pretty good about your position at this point with the way they've routed this seed. Just making this quick check over to the magic shop with that flute makes a lot of sense.
This is true. And like we mentioned before, if there's one place you really want to make sure you don't take a death, it's on Ganon.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So the one other thing he could have done there, since he's pretty good on magic and he's got silvers, he could have just gone down and bonked the tree over here on the sort of left side of the pyramid, that left tree right there, and could have just picked up a fairy in a bottle. If he's concerned about magic, then yeah, you definitely want to go to the potion shop. But I think with half magic and what we've got with silvers, probably could have done it without it, but no sense in kind of getting too crazy here. We just want to be able to see this seed out as quickly and easily as possible.
I agree. And I do want to point out that was a very nice hook shot dash to get up the pyramid super fast as well.
Yeah, I think I've definitely been impressed with WindFox's execution of some of these various tricks and glitches and dark rooms. He's put on a really good performance here. I mean, we can talk about how kind the seed was all we want, but you still have to put that into action.
And unfortunately taking a death, but had not used either of his potions, so doesn't really need to try and go again. Or go to the Witch's Head again.
And Drossy does get that icebreaker glitch. Took him a little bit. It can be a little bit tricky if you're not super familiar with how to perform the movements. Does require a couple of one-frame movements, but does eventually get it, gets through, and is now going to continue on with his Ice Palace. And yeah, I think for WindFox, maybe took a little bit of a... took the damage those bats do for granted, maybe just a touch. They can be very, very painful on blue mail.
Absolutely. I'm ready for him to see that phase 3, and I'm sure he is at this point too. Go ahead and using one of those potions just to be safe and get his health back up.
Yeah, and he does have that cape. So with that blue potion he got, probably would have been a good idea to use that. Just for people's reference who may be not as familiar with the fight, it is 12 hits, 12 normal slashes with the Tempered Sword on both Phase 1 and Phase 2, and now 4 hits here as Ganon is warping around for Phase 3. And there's the 4th hit, and now it's just going to be simply 4 silver arrow shots. We do have to stun Ganon before those shots will, before he'll be vulnerable to our silver arrow shots. But WindFox should be able to get these. Tried to get the double, but was unfortunately too close to the edge there. Or Ganon was too close to the edge. Ooh. Needs to be, I think he's used
that torch.
Yeah, he's already used his blue potion, so he needs to be a little bit cautious here. That's arrow number 2.
Good, getting that 1 off. Just barely.
Oh, here we go. This should be it. And he's got it. Get your GGs in chat for WindFox. Very well run race here. Give it up for him. So WindFox470 has finished with an official racetime.gg time of 1 hour, 35 minutes, and 56 seconds.
GG to WindFox. Hopefully we will get him and Shireen in chat shortly for an interview. And as that's going on, Drossy has gone ahead and taken down Cold Stare as well.
Yep, and all that's left now for Drossy is to get Misery Mire finished up and then get it up to GT. We'll see if he decides to finish it out. I'd say, generally speaking, in this situation, if he did decide to forfeit, it'd be perfectly okay. But it'd be really cool to see him finish this out and get a little bit more practice. I think in the spirit of this tournament, that'd be really cool to see.
Absolutely. I know that it can be a little bit rough to continue on, but I think finishing out is a strong thing. And we have Shireen and WindFox here in the chat with us. WindFox, GG.
GG, thank you.
Yeah, GG, very well-run race for you guys. And this seed ended up being really kind. I was concerned for you all early when we got all that stuff in Kakariko, but things kind of just laid out really nicely for you guys. Guys, just talk us through what you guys were seeing, what you guys were discussing as the race was going along.
Well, for the most part, I just did what he said. He recommended the very early Desert Palace play, which actually paid off to get the bow for the early Eastern Palace. Just to find out it wasn't needed, but it actually paid off.
Absolutely. And something that we were commenting on was your dip into Mire as well, and just going full on Mire Darkroom. Tell us how you felt going about through that.
I know the dark rooms very well. I have no problems doing them. I've practiced them a lot.
Okay, so is that the strategy you used there, which was to remove the pot and then throw the Samaria block from the bottom? Is that the kind of your normal strategy then?
Yeah, that's the one that was taught a while ago that I usually go with. I know there's a few different ways to do it. Shireen was telling me of a different way. I was like, I could try it, but I know of a strat that I usually do.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta go with what's most comfortable for you if you're comfortable with it. So you did fantastically there, and I think pretty much on the whole, I think you ran the seed incredibly well. Yeah, another question.
Ask Shireen, how do you feel?
That was interesting. I mean, I think WindFox hit Dark World at like the 40-minute mark. Like there was finding that pearl on Ether. I told WindFox, I'm like, this is good and bad, right? Because Desert wasn't required, but on the other hand, Pearl's in such a bad spot. Maybe they did Eastern without the bow before coming here, so you could have and the bow didn't lock the Pearl. So maybe you'll be good to go. When the bow was found in Skullwoods, that was no good. But yeah, I mean, the seed definitely picked up the pace, and WindFox did a very good job with the dark rooms and whatnot. Although he skipped like every scoutable location, like
Yeah.
Hylia Island, Ether, and Floating Island. That was fun. Yell at him a little bit. Desert Ledge also. Check that. That was some fun stuff.
Well, if there was ever a seed to kind of get that lesson thrown in there, this is the seed for it. Learning in a seed that ends up being as quick as this one, and that you guys routed pretty well. So, but yeah, there were a couple times there where we were like, did he check that? No.
Yeah.
But all ended up.
Yeah, that was funny. I mean, when he saw the Ether after going back down, I was kind of thinking to myself, okay, maybe just don't grab it for now, because you already had to like jump down twice. But I typically, I feel as a mentor not to encourage playing very skip heavy. That's why I recommended the desert play. I felt doing Green Pendant with Sahasrahla was a good routing choice. I felt that WindFox had a lot of good opportunities in the Dark World to do routing, which is what led to the Pyramid Fairy play, and then heading over to Catfish, which obviously gave us our last two Go mode items. As tempting as the pendants were.
Yeah, it's kind of something we were talking about, was those pendant dungeons were incredibly tempting, very juicy. I mean, you're talking about 11 items total. Plus, you already had the green pendant, so there's always. But you guys check. Oh my goodness, you already checked pedestal, so you knew that wasn't it. But still, it's a lot of items to be putting behind to go do Pyramid Fairy. I think luckily for you guys, there was enough in North Dark World, like Catfish, and then mirroring to go do all the Zora stuff that you missed out on early. So
yeah, definitely. The water walk did not work so well, as I'm sure you guys saw. There was a 15-second delay, and at that point, that's when we kind of made the decision to not do stuff in real time. But I was saying, like, if that water walk paid off, we would have had that cane on our first trip up there. So that would have been big.
Yeah, I think the issue there was you have to jump off the ledge the screen further down, because unfortunately doing it where you were, even if you hadn't bonked and gotten soft locked, you would have ended up going down the waterfall and losing the water walk. So
I was trying to explain it, and we were just desynced. So at that once he did, I said he understood. WindFox understood, At that point, once he got the water walk, I told him which ledge he had to go to, but we just decided at that point, let's go back up to Ether, kind of take a break here while I kind of explain the setup a little bit more, not lose more time. And then, if it ends up being on Zora, we'll come back and deal with it then. That was the approach there. But yeah, overall, WinFox played very well. Didn't need much mentoring. I'm telling him to powder things and take safeties, and he's going into Trinex with 4 hearts. Didn't take any safety doors. Went through the dark room. He's like, yeah, I got this. If I die, I'll go back to the beginning, but it's fine.
Yeah, and like I said before, played incredibly well. So I guess I'll throw it back to you, WinFox. Is this your first sort of? I know I've seen you do some 1v1 races on like ladder, and I think I've seen you in the cross keys during qualifiers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Is this your first time doing it in a restream environment? However.
Oh no, I've been on the restream for the SRL dailies multiple times, so being on restream is
okay.
nothing new.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I think I was kind of interested in what your experience has been like so far with the mentor in this sort of setting.
Actually, one of my very first times on a restream was actually a 1v1 against Shireen, and he just obliterated me by like 45 minutes, so we have a history.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, it certainly all worked out for you guys today. And like I said before, it was a fantastically run race all the way around.
It was really a joy to watch.
Yeah, it seemed like fairly easy. So.
And meanwhile, we did have Drossy go into Desert Palace. I'm once again assuming that we're still trying to look out for that lamp. Maybe not as comfortable with those Mire dark rooms, but looks like we're finally biting the bullet here and heading into Mire.
Yeah, I can definitely empathize with the apprehension for dark rooms. It's good to hear, WinFox, that you feel very, very comfortable with them. It's something you've practiced. You feel good with it, and it showed in your race.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time off my stream or outside of races just practicing on the practice ROM for hours on end.
See, chat asking, does anyone know where that lamp could be? At this point, I think it's safe to say that the lamp is in one of the 2 remaining pendant dungeons.
I would have to say almost certainly, given the abundance of overworld checks that have already been scouted, and both of those dungeons are some of the most item heavy dungeons, 2 of the most. So possibly Smith Chain, but I think good money is on either Swamp or Pod.
Yeah, math definitely says one of those 2 places as far as number of checks go. But, this is Rando. Rando doesn't care about math.
Yeah, okay, and I think we have a forfeit here on Drossy's side, which, as I said before, is totally reasonable and understandable in a situation like this, especially if he's not feeling comfortable enough to do that Mire Darkroom right now. Maybe just wants to try and get it done in some practice later on. Get your G's in the chat for Drossy. Ran a fine race up to this point. Just unfortunately got a little bit out of sorts with some progression and then fell behind here. But still, once again, we thank both of our runners here for putting themselves out there for this race here.
Absolutely. And for people who aren't familiar with dark rooms, speaking as one, not being able to find the lamp and knowing that your opponent finished really quickly, it can be kind of a lot.
We'll check and see if Drossy is wants to come in here and join us for a quick interview. That'd be totally up to him. We'll just have to wait and see.
Absolutely. It looks like we're going to potentially have both Drossy and Days Cloud in just a moment. But just want to remind everybody one more time, this was absolutely a fun race to watch. Go ahead and give those runners a follow. Again, being able to put themselves out there like this, it's not a really easy thing. So give them a follow, show them some love, as well as our tracker, Spamasubi, and our restreamer, Amerith.
Yeah, and we are in fact now joined by Drossy and Days Cloud. GG's, guys.
GG's.
GG's.
GG's, guys. So Drossy, tell us what was going through your mind there near the end there after checking Desert.
I have zero experience with Darkmire, so I just told Days Cloud I did not feel comfortable even with his direction attempting Darkmire. I mean, you saw what happened in TR when I could actually do that in the dark, and then I fell off the platform at the end. So it just wasn't my day for dark rooms, and it was just like, if I can find the lamp in Desert or in the one item in Mire, I'll continue with the seed, but I'm not doing Darkmire, and I'm not spending the next half hour searching for the lamp.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely totally reasonable. That room, as we were saying, it's probably the second, I would say it's the second hardest dark room in the game behind Aga Tower. And if you don't have it practiced, it can be a complete nightmare. So absolutely reasonable. Unfortunately, it looks likely that the lamp was in one of our pendant dungeons. So it's kind of one of those...
Thinking swamp.
Yeah, it could have been either swamp or pod. Swamp's probably more likely. But yeah, just a really, really rough seed if you're not familiar with that dark room.
I mean, until that point, obviously, my blind fight wasn't great, but other than that, I felt it was okay. It's just, I hit a wall.
Yeah, absolutely. I think up to that point, I mean, for the first, 45 to 50 minutes, this was a really interesting race and seed because you obviously didn't get to check it, but the other bow actually ended up being on green pendant, which was interesting when Fox skipped out on checking Ether Tablet and went for Desert. So we were... Yeah, so we had a bow there that he had, but you had that Pearl advantage early.
Where was the book? Paradox?
Yes.
Yeah, it was Paradox.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was actually really, really interesting to watch, but just kind of ran into that roadblock with the lamp, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I mean... Yeah, there are some seeds I'm just not going to be able to play at this point. I don't have enough experience with all the tricks, and... Yeah, it's funny because, I've been getting so many Aga seeds in my practices that the lamp's been forced on me early, so I haven't even really had to do dark rooms in most of my practice seeds.
Yeah, I definitely get that. And I mean, hopefully through this tournament, that's something that you can work on and maybe get some practice in. But yeah, I agree with you in this situation that with your opponent having already finished, it's maybe a little bit tough to try and bang your head against that wall. So,
I mean, to be honest with Drossy, he did really, really, really well. I mean, some of those dark rooms, he was telling me he's never done them before, and so I want to say there were 2 or 3 dark rooms that he's not familiar with today that he just went through like a champ. I mean, that Turtle Rock one, yeah, he fell off the first time, but he got back on and was able to get it done there. I was definitely impressed with what he did there. it's not easy in these settings to do something like that you've never done, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and well, that was also, my first time doubling back to get the old man that is doing Old Man Cave backwards, if you will. So, yeah, no, dark rooms are definitely something I need to learn. I've been practicing Icebreaker, and of course it took me about 5 tries to get it this time, even though I'd been getting it pretty cleanly practicing, so what can you do?
Yep, and I think well organized by both of you guys, and of course it's only week 1 of the Swiss, so there's plenty of time left to get back into this thing. I guess, Larry, did you have any other questions for?
I do not. I think Days Cloud kind of answered what question I was going to ask him without me having to ask it. Knowing that it was really your first time doing some of those dark rooms is even more impressive, Drossy. So, I mean, really, to both you and WindFox, GG. Like, this was a really, really fun to watch first restreamed race on the on the channel and in the tournament. So, GG to both of you guys.
Thanks, GG.
Yeah, and GG. And any final thoughts from any of you guys? Shireen, WindFox, Drossy, Days Cloud.
GG, Drossy. Good luck for the rest of the tournament. I know you're going to do well.
GG, WindFox. Shireen, since you offered to mentor me next week, are you sure you want to deal with the potential of I hit another Dark Mire?
Yeah, man. I'll tell you how to go through Dark Mire easy.
I mean,
Just
Days offered. I just
blame
didn't
Days Cloud.
feel comfortable.
It's all his fault. He lost.
He offered. In fairness, he
I'm no
offered.
good.
Yeah, this was a rough seed. I mean, everything kind of for the most part was laid out, like outside of the lamp. Like I'm assuming you guys also probably, with where the other bow were in pretty good shape as far as go mode, right?
I mean, I was at Buttersword. I was fully prepared to do Buttersword Silverless Ganon, especially, once I found the half magic on Desert Ledge.
Right. Yeah, this is just an unfortunate seed where your go mode's like an hour in and you have no lamp. But yeah, you'll be fine.
I mean, with a little bit of practice, almost that.
Because
Everything
I
would be
could have
fine.
go-moded Chiara, I could have go-moded Ice if I felt comfortable doing Mire Basement, because at that point I was just in lamp mode even before I went up to Dark Death Mountain.
Yeah, and you could have done TR last and stayed up the mountain. There's like a lot of efficiency things, but you'll get it.
Absolutely. And that's why we're all here anyway, is, this is a tournament specifically for people who are either new to Rando, rusty at Rando, just trying to be better at Rando. And so I think that knowing that there are things that we can all work on and things that we can get better at, that's what this tournament is all about.
Yep, absolutely. So once again, guys, chat, give these runners a follow. Give another round of applause for them for going ahead and putting on this show for us. And once again, thank you to our tracker, Spam Masubi, and our restreamer, Amarith. And as we mentioned earlier, this tournament is run by the Go Mode podcast. If you're looking to get into Rando, they have a ton of really fantastic episodes going through a bunch of different tips and tricks that will help your Rando game, and also just really entertaining in general. And as well, there's a link for our Discord there, the Discord there as well for the Go Mode podcast. If you want to join that, a lot of information for this tournament is going to be in there. And also just as with the podcast, a lot of really good information in general. So give that a look. And last but not least, Leoria, thank you so much for coming with me. This has been an absolute joy.
Thank you so much for the same. It's been my first time on comms, and you were a pleasure to come with. It felt really, really easy to just kind of jump into the role.
Well, you're a natural. You're going to do fantastic at this. So, absolutely. Thank you guys so much. Thank you all for watching our first restream of the tournament. This is gonna be a lot of fun. So be sure to keep track of this channel here. Join us again for our next race. I don't know that we actually have one currently scheduled for restream, but just keep an eye out. And if you go to the Discord, I believe there is a schedule you should be able to look at there as well. And yeah, this should be a lot of fun.
I'll throw out there too, if you're interested in having more restreamed races and you want to, say, help out with the tournament somehow, even though signups to be a racer in the tournament are over, we are always looking for volunteers to help with comms and tracking and restreaming especially. So if you want to see more random on the channel and you want to find a way to help out, check out the Discord and check out the sign-up sheet to be a volunteer.
Yep. Thank you all once again. And I've been Jay Misher.
I have been Leoria.
Yep. Thank you. Have a good night, good day, wherever you are in the world. Take care.
Goodbye, y'all.